The anime begins by showing a busy kitchen of a traditional Japanese snack shop. At that time, the shop is very clean, and the owner is preparing various sweets to sell. Then, the shop owner's wife asks about their adopted daughter named Itsuka. Her husband thinks that Itsuka might still be at the train station. Meanwhile, Itsuka is on a mission to find her long-lost father. She spots someone who looks like him and rushes over, but sadly, she realizes it's not her dad. Feeling disappointed, she runs away from the man she mistook for her father. At the same time, Nagomu is hurrying to catch a train. He nearly misses it because of his encounter with Itsuka. Then, the story shifts to Nagomu's past. He used to be in a band, having fun with his friends, but one by one, they all left the band. Nagomu was shocked and cried when his friends left, but he kept trying to carry on by himself. The next day, Nagomu receives a package of sweet snacks from his family's shop, which he had left behind many years ago. This time, there's also a letter from his grandmother. After being away for 10 years, Nagomu decides to go back home. His band had broken up, and he was jobless, so he felt relieved to return to his hometown. When Nagomu arrives home, he heads straight to the traditional house. But he's shocked when his father, Haigo, suddenly hits him. The force of the hit throws Nagomu off balance. Nagomu comments on his father's reaction, and his father angrily replies, upset that Nagomu left without saying anything and came back without any warning. After this tense moment, Nagomu finally meets his parents properly, and they begin to talk about why he left home. Soon after, Itsuka arrived home. She was surprised to see the man she had met at the station earlier was now at her house. It turns out that Itsuka is the adopted daughter of the family. Her real parents had left her at the shop and then disappeared. Shortly after, Itsuka was introduced to Nagomu, but she wasn't very happy about it. She was upset because she was now the one responsible for taking over the family's manju shop, and she didn't think Nagomu was capable of running it. Even though Itsuka was still a child, she had a mature and strong personality. She quickly went back to work at the shop. Later, when Nagomu went to rest, he fell asleep before eating dinner, which made Itsuka even more annoyed with him. The next day, Itsuka worked hard at the shop. Nagomu, on the other hand, had to train by doing 50 push-ups before starting his work. Nagomu's mother, Fuki, then talked with him about Itsuka. Itsuka was being trained to take over the shop because her adoptive parents were getting old and might not be around much longer. As Nagomu watched Itsuka, he noticed how stubborn but responsible she was. He quickly grew close to her, even though they hadn't known each other for long. One day, Itsuka had a problem. She kicked out some men who were smoking in the tavern because it annoyed her. Nagomu advised her to be more careful and let the adults handle such situations. However, Itsuka didn't listen because she thought Nagomu was an irresponsible person. Despite this, Itsuka decided to keep working. As the day goes by, the shop started receiving a lot of orders over the phone, and everyone, including Itsuka, was happy because the customers appreciated her hard work and good attitude. The next day, an order came in, and Itsuka was excited. But by the afternoon, the customers still hadn't picked up their food. This made Itsuka worried that the shop would lose money. So, she decided to take responsibility and try to sell the cakes by going around the neighborhood. However, her attempt didn't go well because people didn't notice her. Then, Nagomu showed up wearing a funny hat shaped like a sweet snack. He started playing his guitar and singing to attract attention to the cakes. Slowly, customers began to come to the shop, and before they knew it, all the food was sold out. Later, Itsuka and Nagomu sat down to talk while eating some of the snacks he had kept aside. After they finished their work, they went back home. Later, Itsuka brought some snacks for Nagomu. During this time, he opened up about why he left home. Nagomu explained that he was very close to his grandfather, who always defended and loved him. When his grandfather passed away, Nagomu was heartbroken and decided to run away from home. After hearing this, Itsuka finally understood why he left in the first place. The scene then shifts to a girl named Mitsuru. She was checking the views on her YouTube video. Mitsuru had composed a song and decided to upload a video of her singing. Because she loved singing but didn't want her friends to recognize her, she wore a mask in the video. After uploading the video, she headed to school. When she was at school, Mitsuru attended her classes. After school was over, some of her friends approached her, and they started talking about Nagomu, who had gone viral because of his street performance the day before. Upon hearing that, Mitsuru joined the conversation and shared her thoughts about Nagomu. After finishing their conversation, Mitsuru went to work at the shop and started her usual tasks. During this time, Nagomu got emotional and cried because some customers had taken the snacks he liked. At that time, Itsuka and Nagomu's mother reminded him that he couldn't cry every time customers took the snacks, and they told him this had to stop. When Nagomu was little, he would cry every time a customer bought something. Soon after, Mitsuru arrived and handed Nagomu a handkerchief, but she was surprised to realize that it was actually her little brother's pants. Embarrassed, Mitsuru apologized, and they both laughed it off before getting back to work. Later, Itsuka approached Mitsuru and thanked her for helping her study, which led to Itsuka getting a perfect score on her test. Mitsuru felt happy that she could help someone else. Meanwhile, Nagomu was watching the two girls as they cleaned up, which made his mother shake her head in disapproval. A little later, Fuki called Mitsuru over to give her some snacks for her grandmother's death anniversary. Mitsuru thanked her and also mentioned that the keychains she had made were selling well in the shop. She promised to make more to sell. Nagomu then asked Mitsuru to make a keychain in a shape that he liked. After their chat, Mitsuru hurried home. When she arrived, her younger siblings greeted her excitedly. Mitsuru had brought groceries for her mother and then took a moment to pray for her grandmother. There, she happily gave the leftover sweets to her three siblings, who immediately started eating them. They then asked Mitsuru to sing them a lullaby before bed. Later, Mitsuru overheard her parents talking about how they hoped to see her succeed. Feeling encouraged, she continued her hobby of singing and uploading videos. She didn't realize that the keychain on her phone was making people recognize her as someone connected to a famous snack shop. On the other side, Nagomu was watching a video of a masked woman singing, not realizing that it was actually Mitsuru. Then, Itsuka came in and surprised him. She noticed the keychain in the video and immediately figured out that the masked woman was Mitsuru. The next day, Mitsuru's video went viral. People started calling Nagomu's family snack shop, asking about Mitsuru. At that time, Fuki got annoyed because she was tired of answering all the calls. And Mitsuru, feeling guilty for causing the commotion, went to the shop to apologize. She talked with Nagomu and Itsuka, who actually encouraged her to keep singing and follow her passion. But Mitsuru was still worried that her parents wouldn't approve. To help, Nagomu and his friends visited Mitsuru's house. There, Nagomu asked Mitsuru's mother for permission to let Mitsuru pursue her music hobby. He shared his own experience, saying that while his choices had ups and downs, his parents still supported him, allowing him to find his way back to the village when he was ready. At that moment, Mitsuru's mother was pleased to learn about her daughter's talent. After Nagomu and Itsuka left, Mitsuru's parents talked to her. They watched her YouTube videos and showed their support, making her very happy. The next day, Mitsuru was full of energy. She gave Nagomu the keychain he had requested as a thank you gift. Then, Mitsuru and Itsuka went to school together. As they walked, Mitsuru talked about how kind and friendly Nagomu seemed, but Itsuka felt confused. She was still struggling to fully accept Nagomu's kindness because of her own pride. That night, Itsuka had a sad dream about her long-lost father. When she woke up, she felt the sadness of realizing that her father was still not back. Then, she decided that she needed to slowly let go of her memories of him so she could move on with her life. The next morning, Itsuka and her family gathered for breakfast. During the meal, Nagomu mentioned the upcoming Yoyama celebration, but this annoyed his father because it sounded like Nagomu wanted to leave again. Then, Itsuka's uncle brought up that she had once wanted to go to the Gion festival, but she refused because she was trying to forget about her father. At that time, Itsuka felt too lazy to go to the festival, worried it might remind her too much of the past. After the conversation, Itsuka headed off to school, and Nagomu and the others got ready for work. It was mentioned that Nagomu had once promised to go to the festival with Kanoko. On her way to school, Itsuka saw a man who looked like her father. Curious, she decided to take a bus to follow him, even though she wasn't sure if it was really him. On the bus, she watched the man closely but eventually got overwhelmed and fell asleep, missing her stop and waking up at the last stop. Panicked, she asked the bus driver where she was. Meanwhile, her classmates noticed she was missing and reported it to the school, who then contacted Nagomu. As soon as Nagomu heard the news, he quickly went to find Itsuka and headed towards the bus route she had taken. On the other hand, Itsuka was feeling lost and scared because she had run out of money. She then met a woman named Kanoko, who was upset because her boyfriend had left her. Soon after, Kanoko invited Itsuka to sit and chat while eating dango, or known as sweet dumplings. Even though they had just met, Kanoko started pouring out her feelings to Itsuka, sharing how hurt she was after being abandoned. Itsuka also shared her own story about being left behind by her father, an irresponsible man. Not long after, Nagomu arrived and started looking for Itsuka. At the same time, Kanoko and Itsuka were heading to the car when they unexpectedly ran into Nagomu, surprising both of them. After that, Nagomu and Itsuka got into Kanoko's car. It turned out that Nagomu and Kanoko hadn't seen each other in a long time. When they got home, Nagomu asked Itsuka to report to her teacher about what had happened, while he invited Kanoko to visit their house. The shop was busy, so Nagomu jumped in to help, but Kanoko got annoyed at how slowly he was working and decided to help out herself, showing him a quicker way to get things done. In the evening, Fuki invited Kanoko into the house to change into traditional clothes. Kanoko decided to go to the festival with Itsuka, who was still feeling down because she hadn't found her father yet. At that time, Kanoko encouraged Itsuka to stay strong and suggested that she could think of Nagomu as a father figure instead. With that, they headed off to the festival. At the festival, Itsuka was excited and had a great time. Kanoko and Nagomu also enjoyed themselves, chatting and having fun. As the night wore on, Nagomu took Itsuka home. On the way, she held Nagomu's hand and thanked him for all the kindness he had shown her that day. Her negative feelings towards him started to fade away. Later, Haigo is seen checking an order made by Saki. There, Fuki watched her husband and the employees working hard, which made her happy to see how well the shop was doing. After peeking into the kitchen, Fuki went outside and noticed Nagomu teasing Itsuka, who was trying to ignore him. Nagomu then showed his mother a photo of himself and Itsuka, which made her smile. However, she quickly lost interest because there was another man in the photo beside Itsuka, which led to Nagomu getting annoyed as his mother teased him. Fuki then asked Itsuka and Saki to go pick some flowers. At that time, Nagomu wanted to join them, but they told him not to because they were afraid he wouldn't be much help. So, Nagomu stayed behind and worked on sorting pullet or sticky rice to be used as a topping for ice snacks, with Saki's help. While working, they started talking. Saki shared that his family had chosen his brother to take over their family shop, so he decided to work at Nagomu's family shop instead. Just as Nagomu was about to respond to that story, their conversation was interrupted by the appearance of Nagomu's father. At that moment, Haigo got very upset because an order from the Mon family didn't go well, and the customer stopped coming. Nagomu quickly apologized for letting the customer down. There, Mon explained that her son refused to accept cakes from Nagomu's shop because when Tadashi visited, he was kicked out for asking about the woman on Saki's phone wallpaper. This surprised Saki, realizing that his actions had caused trouble for the shop. Then, Saki scolded Tadashi for being so interested in the woman on his phone. After hearing the story, Nagomu and his father returned home. Once they got home, they talked with Saki. Out of curiosity, Nagomu asked who the woman on Saki's phone wallpaper really was, but Saki didn't give any details. Tadashi then admitted that he was still upset about being scolded by Saki when he asked about the woman. Tadashi was a big fan of this woman and wanted to meet her, but his attempts failed, leaving him frustrated. Nagomu and his friends then went back to the shop. Itsuka came home and was surprised to see what was going on. After a while, the issue settled down and wasn't talked about again. One day, Nagomu went on a trip and accidentally met the woman from Saki's phone wallpaper. He was shocked to find out that the woman was actually Saki. Saki explained to Nagomu that during college, he often dressed in women's clothes to relieve stress. Over time, Saki got used to wearing women's clothes whenever he felt upset. He tried to keep this a secret, but he used a photo of himself dressed as a woman as his phone wallpaper. Tadashi mistakenly thought the woman in the photo was someone else. Saki also shared that Itsuka had known about this before Nagomu, and she decided to respect Saki's choices without interfering. After their conversation, Nagomu and Saki decided to go their separate ways for the day. The next day, Nagomu continued his usual work at the shop. During this time, Saki, Nagomu, and Itsuka went to Tadashi's house to deliver a letter. When Tadashi read the letter, he was shocked to find out that Saki was engaged to someone else. After delivering the letter, Nagomu and his friends went back to the shop and got back to work. Not long after, Kanoko showed up and ordered snacks for her boss. She also gave them free tickets to the swimming pool, which made Nagomu excited because Itsuka was invited too. Shortly after, Nagomu invited Saki to join them since Kanoko had the same day off as the snack shop staff, and Kanoko agreed to go with them. The next day, they all headed to the swimming pool together. Nagomu was so excited that he ended up rubbing his skin raw on the slide, making his body turn red. Later, at home, Nagomu was surprised to see Itsuka leaving early in the morning. He asked his mother where Itsuka was going. He wondered why Itsuka liked going to the library so much, especially since it was still a holiday. His mother explained that they were very different. Itsuka was very hardworking and focused on getting things done, while Nagomu spent most of his school vacations playing and only started doing his assignments when the break was almost over, which always annoyed his mother. At the library, Itsuka immediately started looking for study materials, while Mitsuru was busy picking out books. They bumped into each other and decided to talk. Then, Mitsuru mentioned that she was looking for a book with snack recipes, and Itsuka suggested asking someone at the shop. However, Mitsuru jokingly mentioned Nagomu's name, even though she knew it wouldn't be helpful to ask him since he usually just goofed around at the shop. At that time, Itsuka let Mitsuru go because she realized that Mitsuru might have a crush on Nagomu. After their chat, they both got back to choosing books and studying. After they finished their work, Nagomu, Itsuka, and their friends decided to find a place for lunch. By chance, they ran into Kanoko, which surprised Itsuka because it meant Nagomu's ex-girlfriend was meeting a woman who also liked him. Itsuka was worried they might not get along, but to her surprise, the two women quickly became friendly with each other. Feeling relieved, Itsuka and her friends decided to go to a soba shop and ordered their food. Itsuka was happy to see how well the two women were getting along, even though they both liked Nagomu. After lunch, they decided to visit a temple to pray for good luck. The three of them participated in the prayer ritual, but it seemed like only Itsuka was lucky that day. They continued their fun day by visiting more exciting places. On the way home, Itsuka noticed how close the two women had become, even though they both liked Nagomu. Kanoko seemed relaxed, confident that Nagomu wouldn't be interested in a teenager like Mitsuru, who still had a lot of growing up to do. Because of this, the two women were able to get along well, despite their feelings for Nagomu. Soon after, Itsuka returned home to rest. The next day, Nagomu woke up and started thinking about his grandfather. Since it was the holidays, Nagomu felt like relaxing. That afternoon, Nagomu and his family decided to pray in honor of his grandfather's death anniversary. Not long after, Nagomu's grandmother arrived to pray for her late husband, which annoyed Nagomu's father because his mother only visited once a year. Nagomu's grandmother then handed out gifts to each of her children and grandchildren. That night, Nagomu caught his grandmother and father in the kitchen. His father was giving his homemade bean paste to his mother to taste, as she was the only one who knew the secret family recipe. The next day, Nagomu started work but ended up getting scolded by his grandmother for messing things up, which made him even more frustrated. He then continued with his usual activities. Nagomu's grandmother had guests, friends she had met while traveling. Even though she was often away, she always promoted the family shop, and her friends from around the country would stop by. Nagomu's grandmother invited Nagomu and Itsuka to join her the next day to write wishes on wooden sticks, a tradition they usually followed. Next, the scene is at Nagomu's family home. Nagomu and the other staff were busy making sweet snacks to sell. Then, an old woman came to visit Nagomu and gave him an invitation to a district festival. Nagomu told his family about it, and his father got really excited about joining the competition. Hearing this made Itsuka think about her own father, who had gout last year after participating in a similar event. This made Itsuka and the rest of the family worried. But this time, with Nagomu around, the family felt more confident about taking part in the competition. Nagomu's father asked Itsuka to mark which events he wanted to join. In the end, the whole family agreed to participate, and the shop staff also supported them. The next day, Nagomu and his family arrived at the festival to compete. Nagomu and his friends got ready to join the races. Itsuka prepared to run in her race, and when she won, everyone was happy to see her success. Then it was Nagomu's turn to run, but even though he won, no one cheered for him. However, Nagomu didn't mind because he knew that Itsuka was the favorite in the family. Later, Hygo had trouble because his gout flared up, making it hard for him to continue. Someone needed to take his place. There, Itsuka gave Nagomu some sweet snacks to help him regain his energy, and they both rushed to finish the race together. After the race, they got news that a guest was at their home and it was Itsuka's mother, who had come to take her child back. That night, Nagomu and his father were shocked by the news. Both of them became stressed and couldn't sleep, worried that Itsuka might be taken away from them. The next day, Itsuka went to meet Tsuru's house to study. Not long after, Siren, Itsuka's mother, arrived to pick her up. After hearing Siren's request, the host agreed to let Itsuka go, even though it made Hygo sad because he cared deeply for her. Nagomu then took Siren to where Itsuka was. Afterward, Nagomu returned home, and Itsuka and her mother spent some time together. Meanwhile, Nagomu's family felt confused and sad because Itsuka had left. However, to their surprise, Itsuka returned home later. She explained that she had decided not to go to France with her mother because she felt that Nagomu's family was where she truly belonged and found happiness. Siren reluctantly accepted Itsuka's decision, but continued to maintain a good relationship with her. Nagomu was given the task of sending pictures of Itsuka to Siren so that she wouldn't miss her daughter too much. Soon after, Nagomu talked with Saki about this job, mentioning that it was a bit hard to capture pictures of Itsuka smiling. Even so, he faithfully sent photos to Siren to fulfill her wish. The scene then shifts to Iro's journey to the Ryokushou sweet shop. Iro was excited and hurried to get there because it was her first day of work. Without delay, she knocked on the shop door, eager to start. At that moment, Nagomu was taking out the trash because his father had reminded him that a garbage truck would be coming soon. Nagomu rushed outside and was surprised when Iro knocked into him, mistaking him for the door. At that time, Fuki and Hygo welcomed Iro inside and told her to change into work clothes because she was about to start learning the skills needed to become a snack craftsman. Iro admired Nagomu, thinking he was a great and responsible man. She believed that Nagomu was the perfect senior to teach her. Nagomu then showed Iro the tools and equipment. As they got to know each other, she was impressed by Nagomu, thinking he was the heir to the shop. But Nagomu quickly clarified that he was just a junior in the shop and that the real successor was Itsuka, not him. Iro was surprised when she heard what Nagomu said, and they quickly started working. As they worked, Iro noticed that Nagomu kept getting scolded, which made her think that he was careless and not very responsible. Because of this, Iro didn't really pay attention to anything Nagomu told her. Soon, the principal showed up and asked if the students could use the kitchen for practice. Nagomu's dad was getting ready to teach a lesson on how to make snacks. Nagomu was surprised to see that among the students was Itsuka. The students got ready to follow the lesson, and before they started, Nagomu explained the different seasons in Japan. The students were really interested and listened carefully. Then, the snack-making class began. Once again, Itsuka made the best snacks, and Nagomu felt proud of her. Meanwhile, Miyu was sad because her snacks didn't turn out as well. Miyu's mom was disappointed and wished she hadn't joined her daughter for the activity because she thought Miyu would do better. Hearing this made Miyu upset, and she started arguing with her mom. At that time, Nagomu saw what was happening and decided to step in to help. After talking to Nagomu, Miyu felt a little better. Then, Hygo continued teaching the class. When the snacks were done, everyone tried the different dishes that were made. After the class ended, Nagomu went on with his other tasks. He later helped Iro at the cashier. Nagomu suggested that Iro should recommend snacks to the customers, but Iro refused because she wanted to focus on making snacks, not greeting guests. When customers came in and asked for snack recommendations, Iro just ignored them. But when a new customer arrived, Iro helped him, though she got confused because he also asked for recommendations. Itsuka noticed this and stepped in to help Iro. There, Iro didn't like Nagomu because she thought he was too careless, so she didn't listen to anything he told her. This made Itsuka angry at Iro for treating Nagomu that way because, even though he made mistakes, he was a good person with other useful skills. Iro was surprised that a kid like Itsuka was scolding her. Shortly after, Hygo appeared and stopped the argument. After that, Iro felt bad because she only wanted to learn from a perfect teacher. She then talked to her dad and asked for his support. Meanwhile, Nagomu and Saki were chatting about Iro because it seemed like she admired Hygo. But then Saki mentioned that Iro actually admired someone else, which confused Nagomu and surprised both Itsuka and Saki. Not long after, Iro showed up, wanting to ask about the person she admired. Itsuka and Saki were surprised by Nagomu's question because it meant that Iro knew she was being talked about. This made Nagomu even more careless. The scene then shifts to a tea house where Kanoko is relaxing with her co-workers. Kanoko was asked to practice a tea ceremony. Soon after, the manager joined them, and Kanoko and her friends started talking. Someone asked Kanoko why a city girl like her moved to Kyoto, which made her think again about her reasons for being there. After finishing her tea, Kanoko decided to leave the shop and sit at a rest stop. While resting, Kanoko thought about Nagomu. It turned out that they used to have a good relationship. During one of their meetings, Kanoko got drunk because she was stressed. Nagomu appeared, acting annoying and carefree, just wanting to say hello. Kanoko's co-workers were shocked by Nagomu's behavior, so they took him away. However, Nagomu was still worried about Kanoko, so he checked on her condition again. Soon after, Nagomu gave Kanoko a drink and helped her go to the bathroom to wash her face. Kanoko was surprised that Nagomu waited for her, even though they had just met. But Nagomu was so kind, and this made her happy. Then, Kanoko wanted to return the favor and promised to treat Nagomu to tea another time. The next day, she was surprised to see Nagomu again at the cafe where she worked. Because of this, they started getting closer, and Kanoko often visited the cafe to see. As they spent more time together, they started to like each other and eventually decided to date. During that time, Kanoko also supported Nagomu in his music career as a member of the band Chestnut Manju. The band became popular for wearing sweet snack costumes. However, their relationship didn't last long because Nagomu had to go home suddenly when his father got sick. At that time, he panicked and left Kanoko without much explanation. This made her angry, and she started to dislike Japanese snacks. Because of this, she decided to leave Nagomu's place. In the present, Kanoko feels like she's experiencing a sense of déjà vu with Nagomu. Because of these feelings, she decides to visit Nagomu's snack shop. When she arrives, she is greeted by Itsuka, who invites her into the shop to choose some snacks. Later, Fuki also comes over and suggests some options to Kanoko. It turns out that the shop's theme is Halloween, and the teenagers and children in the village are going to celebrate Halloween in costumes. Shortly after, Nagomu comes home and says he wants to wear his Manju cast in costume, but his Manju hat is missing after the district festival. He panics and starts searching for it again. However, his grandmother, who had the costume, forgot where she put it. This made Nagomu feel frustrated, and Kanoko and the others felt sad seeing him so upset. At night, Kanoko called Jerry, one of the old band members from Nagomu's group. They talked on the phone about Nagomu. There, Jerry explained that he and the other band members didn't want to just break up the band. They had a plan and wanted to talk to Nagomu about it. However, Jerry found out that Nagomu had already gone back to Kyoto. Jerry was curious why Kanoko was in Kyoto too, and she was surprised by his question. Jerry then mentioned that they wanted to meet up with Nagomu for a reunion. The next day, Kanoko visited Nagomu's place. Meanwhile, Itsuka was with her friends getting ready for a Halloween event that night. Itsuka was surprised to see someone wearing Nagomu's chestnut snack hat. Then, she traded her hat for the Kasten hat and rushed home to give it to Nagomu. Nagomu was very surprised and excited. Itsuka felt happy because Kanoko brought snacks for Nagomu and his friends. After saying thank you, Itsuka went off to play. Later, Nagomu gave sweet snacks to Kanoko to thank her for helping to bring his band back together. There, he was worried that Kanoko didn't like Japanese snacks because, in the past, Kanoko had said she preferred Western snacks and was upset when Nagomu decided to go back home to help with his family snack shop. This had caused her to get angry and leave Nagomu. But now, Kanoko told him that she actually loved Japanese snacks. Nagomu was surprised and happy to hear this because he realized that their past argument was just a misunderstanding. Next, the scene shifts to Nagomu's house. Nagomu and Itsuka were watching Christmas TV shows with lots of excitement because Christmas was coming soon. Suddenly, Nagomu asked about Itsuka's birthday. Itsuka was surprised because his question didn't have anything to do with the show they were watching. She had to tell Nagomu that her birthday had already passed. This shocked him because he hadn't realized he missed Itsuka's birthday. Nagomu realized that he hadn't had time to celebrate Itsuka's birthday because he had only been home for a short while. Then, he remembered that his own birthday was coming up soon. After that, Nagomu went back to work squeezing yuzu oranges to use in making snacks, working together with Saki. Saki asked when Nagomu's birthday was, and he replied that it was tomorrow, on the 15th. Saki was surprised to hear that Nagomu's birthday was so close. Then, Iro mentioned that someone from the flower shop had arrived. Nagomu quickly checked and saw that the Christmas tree had been delivered. At that moment, Itsuka started reading a letter from her mother and was shocked to learn that her mom would be coming home on Christmas Eve. Itsuka was worried that her mom might break her promise like she had before, so she went into her room, feeling upset. Meanwhile, Nagomu continued squeezing the yuzu oranges as his father had instructed, but he was startled when the squeezer broke. Shortly after, Nagomu told his father about the broken tool. His father got angry at first, but then realized that since the tool was old, it was normal for the wood to break. Hygo then asked him to pray for his grandfather. As Nagomu did this, he thought about his grandfather and remembered the times they used to squeeze oranges together. However, Nagomu's mother interrupted and reminded him to get back to work. Meanwhile, Itsuka met up with Kanoko. They chatted, and Kanoko mentioned Nagomu's upcoming birthday. Itsuka was surprised because she didn't know when Nagomu's birthday was. Kanoko said she wanted to invite Nagomu out, but she was worried it might disturb him. After talking for a while, they decided to head home. Later, Nagomu told Saki about his birthday. Saki and Iro were surprised to hear about the yuzu orange snacks that Nagomu's family made every year for his birthday. However, Nagomu complained a bit because every year, he had to be busy squeezing yuzu oranges for his birthday cake. That evening, Itsuka made a special birthday note with tickets for an outing and gave it to Nagomu so he wouldn't forget. The next day, Itsuka was picked up by her mother to celebrate Christmas Eve together. While walking, Nagomu ran into Kanoko on the street. At that time, Kanoko, Nagomu, and Mitsuru decided to walk together. Itsuka was surprised to see the three of them walking as a group. Even though her mother was talking to her, Itsuka couldn't help but grumble a little, thinking that Nagomu was being careless by hanging out with two women who liked him. As Nagomu, Kanoko, and Mitsuru continued their walk, Mitsuru, before heading home, gave him a Christmas cake she had made as a gift. Kanoko also gave Nagomu a gift, which made him feel really touched by their kindness. To make the moment more special, Nagomu borrowed a guitar from a street singer and started playing music. The two women watched as he sang, and the local people around them also enjoyed his performance. At that moment, Itsuka and her mother were surprised to see Nagomu singing so happily on the street, but they all ended up enjoying Christmas Eve with his lovely singing. Later, there's a scene where Nagomu is talking to his father in the kitchen. His father asked him to deliver an order the next day. Nagomu was surprised because the shop was supposed to be closed for the New Year holiday. However, since some customers had made special requests, he agreed to make the deliveries. His father also told him that he could use the leftover ingredients in the kitchen to practice making mochi snacks. Upon hearing that, Nagomu felt excited about this and quickly got to work on his snack-making practice. The next day, Nagomu and his family celebrated his birthday together. Nagomu's mother prepared food for their family celebration, and they all enjoyed their meal with great enthusiasm. After eating, Nagomu and his father prepared red packets for Itsuka, which surprised her because Nagomu gave her one too. Once the meal was over, he decided to keep working because he still had to deliver the orders. As he set off to make the deliveries, he suddenly met a man in front of the shop. Nagomu told the man that the shop was closed that day, and the man felt disappointed and continued on his way. After Nagomu finished delivering the orders, he was surprised to see the same man still sitting in the park. Nagomu went over to him to see if he could help. The man, whose name was Manto, shared that he wanted to visit his mother's grave. Usually, his relatives would take care of it, but Manto had been having a lot of bad luck lately and decided to visit his mother's grave himself to show respect. After hearing Manto's story, Nagomu went home and decided to get some of the snacks he had made during practice the night before. Even though he wasn't supposed to sell those practice snacks, he felt bad for Manto and wanted to help. In that moment, Itsuka was angry at first because Nagomu was selling practice snacks, but after he explained his reasons, she understood and helped him pack the snacks. Soon after, Nagomu gave the snacks to Manto, who was deeply touched by his kindness. Later, Nagomu decided to help out at the shop with Itsuka. The shop was busy with customers who had placed orders the day before, and Nagomu's mother was very happy to welcome them and serve the snacks. Not long after, Kumei's grandmother arrived with her grandchildren to enjoy some snacks. While they were eating, Kumei's mother suddenly came in, looking angry. Nagomu and the others were shocked when she told them that Kumei had hit one of her friends. But there, Kumei tried to defend herself, explaining that her friend had torn up her drawing book. Komei was angry because her friend hated the very sour taste of a palm fruit and took it out on her drawing book. In frustration, she ended up hitting her friend. As the story continued, Komei and her family kept talking until Komei eventually fell asleep from exhaustion. Then, a woman named Mira appeared. Mira is the granddaughter of Komei's grandmother X. She was looking for Komei, but no one seemed to know why Mira was there. At that time, Mira had come to deliver a gift from her grandfather. Not long after, Komei's grandmother returned to the shop to take Komei home. Someone asked Komei's grandmother about her ex-boyfriend, so she shared his name. When she got home, she received a package from her ex-boyfriend and opened it. The story then reveals a sad part of her past, where Komei's grandmother had asked her parents for their blessing to be with her boyfriend. However, Mira's grandfather was against their relationship, which made Komei's grandmother upset. Feeling disrespected, she decided to leave him. The next day, Nagomu met with Komei's mother, and they talked while watching Komei and her grandmother playing together. The scene then moves to Nagomu's family snack shop. Nagomu was busy working even though he had a cold. He was so overwhelmed that he eventually got really sick. Because of this, he was scolded and told to stop working and get some rest. Itsuka was upset because she felt Nagomu's carelessness had led to him getting sick. Meanwhile, Haigo was actually happy that Nagomu wasn't working, thinking it meant he wouldn't cause any trouble in the kitchen. Although Nagomu often made his father angry, the employees knew that his father was really just worried about him. Nagomu ended up lying weakly on his futon, resting. Not long after, Mitsuru came to check on Nagomu. She noticed that he really needed help, but before taking care of him, Mitsuru couldn't help but daydream about getting a good reaction from Nagomu. Soon after, Nagomu started dreaming about his time in school. In his dream, his senior, Michi, scolded him for being too curious, especially because Nagomu's family snacks were being served at a school celebration. After that, Michi became interested in Nagomu, so they started to become friends. As time went on, Nagomu and Michi grew closer, and Nagomu often visited the shop where Michi worked. It turned out that the shop owner was a friend of Nagomu's parents, so they started talking more. Nagomu often played guitar with Michi and even learned how to play from him. However, despite becoming skilled, Nagomu was later abandoned by Michi for some unknown reason. Back in the present, Nagomu wakes up and is surprised to see Kanoko visiting him. Kanoko is upset because he got sick. After her visit, Nagomu starts to feel better and eats the food on the table. Since it was winter, Nagomu's mother made a delicious soup for the family and the staff. Everyone went back to their usual activities. There, Kanoko was about to go out to distribute flyers for Nagomu's shop, but Nagomu's mother noticed Kanoko's cold hands and insisted she stay and have some soup first. Soon after, Kanoko sat down at an empty table, and Nagomu quickly brought her a bowl of soup. After eating, she decided to head back, but on the way, she ran into Itsuka. They talked for a while, and Kanoko mentioned Valentine's chocolates that she planned to give to someone special, which caught Itsuka's interest. Not long after, Itsuka went home and took a rest. Meanwhile, Nagomu and his father chatted in the living room. Nagomu talked about how Itsuka used to visit often during the snow season. He remembered that Itsuka probably felt a sense of déjà vu seeing the snow. The next day, Nagomu and Itsuka played in the snow together. He was really happy because Itsuka wanted to join in the fun, so they decided to build a snowman. After they got back home, Nagomu and Itsuka were scolded, but after taking a bath, they sat down at the dining table and enjoyed more of Nagomu's mother's delicious soup. Next, Itsuka gets ready to go to school. Seeing her leave made Nagomu happy because, for the past 2 years, Itsuka had stopped going to the station to look for her father. Nagomu felt relieved and happy because it seemed like Itsuka had moved on from the man who had hurt her. Shortly after, Itsuka met up with her friends, and they walked to school together. They talked about her upcoming birthday, which made her remember the letter she gave to Nagomu about their planned trip. This thought made Itsuka excited because tomorrow they would be going on the trip. Meanwhile, Nagomu and his family were busy planning how to celebrate Itsuka's birthday since her family was also planning a birthday event for her tomorrow. Nagomu was happily looking at the coupon Itsuka had given him earlier and couldn't wait for the next day to arrive. At that time, Nagomu's mother and the others were amused by how silly Nagomu was acting, but he didn't care because he was so excited about Itsuka's birthday. After that, Nagomu, his father, and the other family members started thinking about how to decorate Itsuka's birthday cake. Iro suggested making a cake out of the snacks they had. Not long after, Itsuka came home from school and talked to her mother about her birthday. Their conversation was lively and full of excitement. Even though it was late, Nagomu and his family were eagerly looking forward to celebrating Itsuka's birthday the next day, so Nagomu got ready for the trip. The next day, they quickly got ready to go to the amusement park. Nagomu's mother asked how they were planning to get there. Nagomu said he would drive the car to take Itsuka on their trip. Before they left, Nagomu's father gave Itsuka some pocket money so she could buy whatever she wanted. But Nagomu insisted that he would pay for everything. His father joked that the pocket money could be used if Itsuka got bored spending time with him. This comment surprised Nagomu, but without wasting any more time, they all left by car. In the car, Itsuka and Nagomu talked excitedly. Before long, they arrived at the amusement park, and he invited her to have some fun. Itsuka noticed that Nagomu seemed a bit nervous. Nagomu explained that this was his first time driving with Itsuka, so she realized he was trying to hide his fear. At that moment, they went on various rides at the amusement park, having a great time together. They were both really happy after spending the day enjoying themselves. Soon after, Nagomu decided to let the family at home know they were doing well, but in his excitement, he forgot to tell Itsuka, so she lost sight of him. This made Itsuka remember the feeling of being abandoned, and she felt scared, so she quickly looked for Nagomu and found him. There, he apologized for leaving without telling her, and they decided it was time to head back home. When they arrived, Nagomu's family was busy preparing a big meal to celebrate. After cleaning up, they started celebrating Itsuka's birthday. Itsuka was surprised by the amount of food on the table. Nagomu's family was full of energy and excitement as they wished Itsuka a happy birthday. Itsuka felt really happy and touched by the gifts she received. Meanwhile, her father was still traveling around with his guitar. His uncertain life made it hard for him to find his daughter, so he decided to live alone until he could get back on his feet. Once things were better, Itsuka's father planned to look for her. And the anime will be continued. The moral lesson from this anime is if you're planning a big day out, don't forget to take your brain with you. And if you get lost, make sure it's somewhere fun like an amusement park, not your own kitchen.